The Desert Kingdom's last stand. Ammar trudged across the vast expanse of the desert, the hot sand crunching under his boots. His camel moved slowly beside him, its hooves sinking into the dunes with every step. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning the air into a shimmering haze. But he didn't care. He had grown used to the desert's harshness, just as he had grown used to the endless wars that plagued the Desert Kingdoms. For years, Ammar had been a sword for hire, fighting for whichever kingdom paid the most. He had no loyalty, no cause, just survival. But something inside him had shifted recently. The bloodshed, the endless cycle of violence, had become too much. He no longer found thrill in battle, only weariness. He wanted out, but war had a way of pulling you back. Even when you tried to leave, he paused, wiping sweat from his brow and glancing out at the distant horizon. Somewhere beyond the dunes lay the kingdom of Saphira, once a powerful force in the desert. Now on the verge of collapse, rival kingdoms circled it like vultures, ready to pounce on the scraps. Ammar had no interest in Saphira's fate, but word had spread of something much more valuable hidden within its borders, an ancient weapon, buried deep beneath the sands, capable of unimaginable destruction. Ammar had heard the stories whispered in taverns and camps for years. The weapon was said to be a relic from a forgotten time, when the gods still walked the earth. No one knew if the weapon was real or just a myth. But now, with Saphira's enemies closing in, people were growing desperate. Some believed the weapon was their only chance of survival. Ammar didn't care about Saphira's wars, but the weapon intrigued him. If it existed, it could mean the end of the constant conflict in the desert, or it could be the start of something far worse. Either way, if he could find it, his days of fighting would be over. He could disappear, leaving behind the chaos and bloodshed. A faint sound broke his thoughts, the rhythmic thudding of hooves in the distance. Ammar turned, squinting through the heat haze. A cloud of dust was rising behind him, growing closer with each second. Riders. He counted 5 armed and moving fast. Raiders? No doubt, the desert was full of them these days, scavenging what they could from anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. Ammar let out a slow breath, his hand drifting to the hilt of his sword. He hadn't wanted a fight, but it seemed the desert had other plans. The riders closed in quickly, circling him in his camel. Their leader, a tall man with a red scarf wrapped around his face, leveled a spear at Ammar's chest. "You're a long way from any kingdom, wanderer," the leader said, his voice muffled but sharp. "What business do you have in these lands?" Ammar glanced at the man, then at the others behind him. They were young, hungry, and reckless. He knew the type well. They lived for the thrill of a kill, and there was no reasoning with them.
"I'm just passing through," Ammar said calmly. "No need for trouble." The leader laughed. "Trouble's all we've got out here. Hand over your supplies, and we might let you keep your life." Ammar didn't respond. His grip tightened around the hilt of his sword as he calculated his odds. The raiders were fast, but they were undisciplined. He could take them, but it would be close. Before the leader could say another word, Ammar moved. His sword flashed in the sunlight, cutting through the air with deadly precision. The leader's eyes widened in surprise as he barely blocked the strike with his spear, but Ammar was already moving, spinning around and driving his blade into the next rider before the others could react. The battle was quick and brutal. Ammar fought with the skill and efficiency of a seasoned warrior, dispatching the raiders one by one until only the leader remained. Blood stained the sand as the 2 men circled each other, the leader now cautious, wary of the man he had underestimated. "You're no ordinary wanderer," the leader said, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" "Just a man trying to survive," Ammar replied. With a swift strike, he knocked the leader's spear aside and disarmed him. The man fell to his knees, gasping for breath. Ammar stood over him, sword poised for the killing blow. "Wait!" the leader gasped. "I know what you're looking for. The weapon. The one buried beneath Saphira. I can help you find it." Ammar hesitated. He didn't trust the man, but he needed information. The weapon was the only thing that could change his fate, and if this raider knew something, it might be worth sparing him. "Talk," Ammar said, lowering his sword but keeping it ready. The leader nodded quickly. "There's a map. An old one, passed down through generations. It shows the location of the weapon, but it's guarded by traps, ancient ones. No one's ever made it out alive." Ammar's eyes narrowed. He had heard rumors of the map, but no one had ever claimed to have seen it. If the raider was telling the truth, the weapon might be more real than he thought. "Where's the map?" Ammar asked. The leader smiled weakly. "In Saphira's capital, hidden in the royal archives. But with the war going on, it won't be easy to get in." Ammar sheathed his sword and mounted his camel. Then we'd better hurry, he said, pulling the leader up behind him, because if we don't, someone else will. As they rode off into the desert, Amar couldn't help but feel a familiar pull of danger and adventure. He had wanted to leave the wars behind, but now he was racing straight into the heart of one. And with a weapon of unimaginable power at stake, the fate of the desert might rest in his hands.